The rain had started just as Emma closed her front door. Not a polite drizzle, but the kind that pounded against the pavement as though the sky had a grudge. She stood for a moment beneath the porch light, fumbling for her umbrella, before giving up and dashing toward the car parked by the curb. The short sprint left streaks of water on her face and soaked through the hem of her jeans. Of course it would rain tonight, she thought, glancing at the clock on the dashboard. 6:42. Her blind date was at 7. She took a deep breath and adjusted the mirror, catching her reflection. The soft brown curls she'd spent half an hour coaxing into shape now clung stubbornly to her cheeks. Her lipstick, cherry rose, her friend Lauren's insistence, still looked okay, though it felt bolder than she was used to. She looked fine, maybe even nice, for a woman who had spent most of the past 6 years balancing work, laundry, and bedtime stories. Fine would have to do. Lauren had been the one who arranged the date, of course. "You deserve a night out, Em," she'd said, ignoring Emma's protests that she didn't have time, or clothes, or the energy to flirt with a stranger. Lauren, persistent as always, had set her up through some app she swore was, for real adults, not 20-year-olds looking for validation. The guy's name was Matt, or maybe Mark, something safe and ordinary. Accountant. Divorced. He liked Italian food, long drives, and meaningful conversation, according to his profile. Emma parked outside La Casta, the new Italian bistro downtown that everyone in the office had been raving about. Its sign glowed gold against the wet black sky, reflected in puddles like liquid light. She hesitated before stepping out, nerves fluttering. It had been years since she'd been on a date. Years since anyone besides her 6-year-old daughter had really looked at her across a dinner table. Inside, the air was warm and smelled of rosemary and roasted garlic. The lighting was soft, flattering, romantic. A hostess in a sleek black dress greeted her with a smile. "Do you have a reservation?" "Yes," Emma said, smoothing her coat. Mark. "I think. 7 o'clock. The hostess scanned the list and smiled again. "Ah yes, he's already here. Right this way." Emma followed, heart quickening. So he was early, that was good, right? Organized, responsible. She could work with that. The hostess weaved between tables until they stopped at one by the window. A man sat there, reading something on his phone, a glass of red wine untouched beside him. He looked up as they approached. Emma froze. He was not what she expected. Not at all. Mid-30s maybe, but with the kind of presence that filled the room. His jawline was sharp, his eyes, gray, or maybe blue, steady and curious. The crisp lines of his tailored suit screamed money, the kind of money that didn't come from balancing spreadsheets. He rose as she approached, tall, composed, and smiled politely. "Hi," Emma managed, forcing a cheerful tone. "Sorry I'm a bit late. The rain was, well, you know." He gestured to the seat across from him. "No problem at all. Please, sit." His voice was smooth, low, the kind of voice that made you lean in without realizing it. She sat, clutching her purse in her lap, trying to recall anything Lauren had said about his appearance. Had she mentioned he was handsome? Surely she would have. He smiled faintly. "I wasn't sure you'd show up." "Oh, I wouldn't miss it," Emma said, trying for lightness. "It's been a long week, I could use a good meal." A waiter appeared with menus, saving her from having to say more. She focused on the glossy pages, grateful for the distraction. Everything looked expensive. She hoped he was planning to split the check, or better yet, pay. It was his idea, after all. "So," he said after the waiter left, "tell me about yourself." "What do you do?" Emma hesitated. "I work in marketing. Nothing glamorous, mostly social media campaigns for local businesses." He nodded thoughtfully. "Sounds like you have to juggle a lot of personalities." She laughed. "That's one way to put it. And outside of work? Outside of work I'm a mom," she said before she could overthink it. "To a 6-year-old. She's everything, honestly." Something softened in his expression. "That's admirable. It can't be easy." "It's not," Emma admitted, surprised at how easily the truth slipped out. "But she makes it worth it." He smiled, and she felt the flicker of warmth in her chest. For the first time that evening, she relaxed. Maybe this wasn't going to be a disaster after all. Maybe Lauren had been right. They talked through appetizers, bruschetta and calamari, and she found herself laughing more than she expected. He was easy to talk to. Charming, yes, but not in a rehearsed way. He listened, really listened, leaning forward when she spoke as if her words were important. His name, she learned, was Nicholas. She didn't remember that from Lauren's description, but maybe he went by a middle name online. When the waiter poured more wine, Nicholas raised his glass. To unexpected evenings, he said. Emma clinked her glass against his. To unexpected evenings. Half an hour passed like minutes. The rain outside had eased into a soft drizzle, and the city lights reflected on the wet glass beside them. Emma felt a kind of peace she hadn't felt in years, simple, easy, unguarded. Then, midway through the main course, a man approached the table, a nervous-looking guy with glasses and a rain-damp jacket. He glanced between them, confusion dawning. Excuse me, he said. Are you, Emma? She blinked. Yes. He looked mortified. I'm Mark. We were supposed to, oh. His eyes darted to Nicholas. I guess you already met someone. The words hit her like a splash of cold water. Wait, you're Mark. She turned to Nicholas, who was biting back a smile. Then who are you? He leaned back, amusement flickering in his eyes. Not Mark, apparently. Emma's face went hot. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. I thought. She stood up quickly, nearly knocking over her wineglass. This is. Nicholas raised a hand gently. It's all right. Sit down, please. No harm done. Mark looked awkwardly between them. Let you two finish. Maybe, another time. He mumbled something about rescheduling and hurried off toward the bar. Emma sank back into her chair, mortified. I can't believe I did that. Nicholas chuckled, not unkindly. It happens. Mistaken identity in a crowded restaurant, it's practically a rom-com cliché. She groaned. I'm so sorry. You must think I'm insane. On the contrary, he said. I think you're refreshingly spontaneous. She gave a disbelieving laugh. That's one way to describe it. They sat in a moment of shared laughter, and somehow the embarrassment melted into something else, something lighter, easier. So, she said finally, still red-faced. If you're not Mark, who are you? Nicholas, he said, offering his hand across the table. Nicholas Hale. The name rang faintly familiar, but she couldn't place it. She shook his hand anyway. Emma Brooks. Accidental dinner companion. He grinned. A pleasure, Emma Brooks. And since we've already started dinner, would you like to finish it? Part of her wanted to flee and hide under her bed for a week. But another part, the one that hadn't had adult conversation in ages, wanted to stay. Only if you promise not to sue me for impersonation. Deal. They resumed eating, laughter gradually replacing her nerves. Conversation flowed easily again, though now tinged with curiosity. She learned he owned a few businesses, though he didn't go into details. He asked her about her daughter, Lily, and smiled when Emma described her as a tiny hurricane of glitter and questions. By dessert, she'd almost forgotten how the evening had started. They shared a chocolate torte and another glass of wine, and Emma found herself studying him in the candlelight, the small lines at the corners of his eyes, the quiet confidence in the way he carried himself. He didn't check his phone once. He seemed completely present, as if nothing outside that table existed. When the check came, he waved it away before she could reach for her purse. Please, he said. My treat, since I did technically steal someone else's date. She laughed softly. I think I stole yours first. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the air cool and clean. They stood on the sidewalk beneath the restaurant's awning, neither quite ready to end the evening. Can I call you? He asked. The question caught her off guard. You want to? After I sat at your table by accident. He smiled. That might be the most interesting thing that's happened to me all year. She hesitated, the old doubts whispering, he's too polished, too perfect, he probably dates models, not single moms who drive second-hand cars. But his gaze was steady, sincere. Against her better judgment, she nodded. Okay. He took her phone, entered his number, and handed it back. I'd like to see you again, Emma Brooks. When she got into her car, her hands were shaking slightly, not from nerves, but from the absurd thrill of it all. She stared at the contact on her phone, Nicholas Hale. She still couldn't shake the feeling that she'd heard that name somewhere. Maybe in the news, or online. She drove home in a daze, replaying the evening. The laughter, the warmth in his eyes. How natural it had felt, despite everything. At home, the babysitter handed off a sleeping Lily and left quietly. Emma changed into pajamas, washed off her makeup, and stood for a long moment in front of the mirror. Her reflection looked the same tired eyes, same faint lines, but she felt different. Lighter. Her phone buzzed. A message. Nicholas, I hope you made it home safely. Tonight was unexpectedly wonderful. She smiled, typing back before she could overthink it. Emma, home safe. And yes, it really was. The next morning, her phone exploded with messages from Lauren. Lauren. Sue. How was he? Tell me everything. Emma hesitated before replying. Emma. Complicated. She decided to leave out the part about sitting at the wrong table. For now. At work, she couldn't focus. Her mind kept drifting back to the way Nicholas had looked at her, the easy warmth of his smile. She Googled his name during lunch, half out of curiosity, half out of self-protection. The search results made her blink. Nicholas Hale, founder and CEO of Hale Innovations, net worth, $2.8 billion. Her stomach flipped. Billionaire. Oh no. Images filled the screen, him at charity galas, tech conferences, ribbon cuttings. Always in those perfectly tailored suits, that same quiet confidence she'd seen in person. She quickly closed the browser, as if caught doing something she shouldn't. A billionaire. She'd spent the evening joking about marketing budgets and single mom chaos with a man who could probably buy her entire company without blinking. Her phone buzzed again. Nicholas, lunch tomorrow. Might treat again, unless you insist on paying this time. She stared at the message, heart racing. He was serious. And for reasons she couldn't explain, so was she. She typed back slowly, a smile tugging at her lips. Emma, you really don't take accident as an excuse to leave things alone, do you? Nicholas, not when. The accident's the best part. Emma looked out the office window. The sky was clear now, washed clean from the storm. Maybe, she thought, accidents weren't always disasters. Maybe, just maybe, they were the beginning of something she hadn't even known she was missing.